Welcome back, people. We have got behind me a little 2013 Ford Fiesta, and of course it's having a wet belt. Now, before we start the video off and getting involved into the repair, now I just want to show you how many mileage, let me turn the volume down on these heaters. We've got 48,000 miles. Now, I know straight off the hat that this vehicle has been regularly maintained with the correct oil and so on. Now, first things first, before we start taking anything apart, we need to disconnect the battery, and how I do it is just on the top of the suspension strut with a little 8mm, disconnect the earth. Now, I'm going to do this job a little bit different to what I normally do. I normally start off with taking the rocker cover off first and blah blah blah, but because it's being a Fiesta and we haven't got much room down there, we're going to be removing the air conditioning. So I've already degassed the air conditioning, and we're going to remove the AC pipe down there on 13mm and remove this pipe here which goes to the compressor with the 13mm, get the heat shields off, and we're going to remove that exhaust first, because I think that this is the longest part. Well, I'm kind of starting this job at the wrong time of day, really. It is 2:15. But we have got the vehicle up in the air now, because we need to remove the aircon pump. There's a little plastic cover that we've got to take off with some 8mm, and then we can just, well, pretty much remove this aircon pump. Now, normally, sometimes what happens is that this lower 10mm bolt here does snap in the sump. Fingers crossed it comes out. Right, well, I've ploughed ahead. We've now removed the air conditioning pump. And what I like to do is put some little bungs in the end of it, just to stop any moisture getting in there. Now, they are in my little link tree in my bio if you want to go and have a look for them. We've removed the alternator and a few other bits and bobs. And while I was underneath here, what I've done, now I find the easiest way to get these bolts out is drill straight through the middle of them and then snap them off. We can drop the car down now. We can remove the 4 bolts on the turbine. Now, once you've got that heat shield off, these 4 bolts holding the cap to the turbo, them ones there, they can be a bit of a nightmare. They are prone for snapping and pulling the threads. But what I like to give it a little bit of a squirt on is a Launch Power Loop Plus. And sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. It's the luck of the hat with stuff like this. Right, we've got to take the vehicle back up now and undo a 10mm and get the cat off. Right, now with that cat out of the way, we're going to jump round, we're going to drain the oil out of it, and then we're going to make a start on taking all the 8mm around the sump. I want to try and get the oil out of it now so it's draining, so when I drop the car down I can plod on with everything underneath, if that makes sense. Right, let's get this sump-a-rooney off. Right, well, I have got the sump off and it is relatively clean. There is a little bit of, I don't really know what it is, a little bit of black slunge in there, but nothing too concerning. The moment that everybody waits for is the oil pickup, and it is like brand new in there, like brand new. Right, let's drop this engine, I keep saying engine, let's drop this car down and we'll get engine timed up. Right, well, I'm at a stage now where I need to take the rocker cover off. Now, we need to remove all the wiring looping down the side of the engine and disconnect it off all the components on the top of the engine, injectors, coil packs, camshaft sensors, one thing or another. Before we take the rocker cover off, we've got to just slacken off the fuel rail. Now, get yourself a little bit of an airline and blow all the crap from down there, saves it going down any of the ports. But yeah, I'm going to crack on. We're now looking at how far are we off the time? 3:30. So I've been an hour up to this stage. Right, now there's top start motor bolts on these. It can be a little bit of a pain, but what I do is come through the passenger inner wheel arch with some extensions, and you can just about see it up there. Can it focus? On there. We can wind it off through the inner wheel arch. Right, now let's get this crankaroonie locked up. Now there is a pin that you put through the block. You take a 10mm bung out, put the timing pin in, and you need to get your 24 on the crank pulley, and wind it round, and you'll see that crankshaft now locking up to that pin. Now make sure that it is nice and tight. Right, now with everything locked up, we come around the back of the engine here, we put the flywheel locking tool, make sure that everything is nice and tight. And what I like to do is a little bit of a personal preference to myself. You can do it yourself if you've never done it before. Just put a few little marks on the flywheel to the bell housing, just for a little bit of reference, and also on the crankshaft pulley as well, by there and at the top. Just helps you when you're installing it at a later time. Now, like, let's drop this vehicle back down again. I tell you what, there is a lot of up and down on these jobs. All we've got to do is just lock the camshafts up. Right, now with the camshafts locked up, these tools, they have to be tight. Don't leave them slack, they've got to be tight, otherwise things are going to be slipping. I remember when I said at the beginning of the video where that camshaft lobe has got to be about 2 o'clock. You can see where the recess is cut out, absolutely perfect in that holding tool. Right, let's get this vehicle back up in the air and get the crankshaft pulley off. We're going to go ahead now and I'm going to get this crank pulley off. Hopefully nothing slips. Oh, your bloody bars broke. Oh, fucking hell. I tell you what, that is bloody tight. Look at the state of it. That must have been tight. Well, they are tight. Not must have been, they are tight. Well, there you go. Out of all of the wet belts that I've done, I hate to think how many I've done. That was the first time that my bar has let me down. But we have got the total multiplier on it now. And it is come and done rather easy. You know, I can't believe that bar's broke. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Look at the state of it. That must have been tight. Well, they are tight. Not must have been, they are tight. Right, well, I've plodded on a little bit. I've removed all the bolts out of the timing cover, and I have used a little piece of cardboard and put them all in, because they are all different sizes. Now, get yourself a lovely little receptacle underneath, because as you prise this cover off, you're going to get a little bit of water leaking out. Now, with that timing cover off, letting everything drain into my lovely little receptacle, we can now concentrate on getting the timing belt off itself. Now, after all that work, this part is probably 10 minutes, if that. Get yourself a pair of pliers on the belt, tensioner, like so. Can I do this one-handed? No, I can't. Let's put my camera down. On the tensioner, like so, and then we can just pop that belt off, remove that one, and then come round to the oil pump belt, and we can walk it off a little bit like that, and there we go. That is the oil pump belt off as well. Right, well, with everything stripped down and the belt is now on the floor, it doesn't look in bad condition, to be honest. There's no sort of yeah, there is a little bit, tiny little bit of delamination on the belt, but there's nothing in the oil pickup. I think this has changed just at the right time. Well, I can't go any further now because it is pretty much knocking off time. We haven't done bad there, really. Pretty much 2 hours to get that belt off. So I'm going to have 20 minutes now, have a little bit of a tidy up, wash my hands and stuff, have a bit of a drink, and have a little bit of a breather. Because I tell you what, that was good going getting that off in 2 hours. Well, good morning, people. We are back into it, and it is Thursday morning. Now, we've had the timing belts delivered. Now, I don't know whether you lot are going to know this, but there is 2 different thicknesses of belts. And I'll just flip the camera around now and I'll show you. One is red, one is blue, and we need to make sure that it is the correct thickness going back on the vehicle. As you can see, I don't know whether you will, but that one is a red one. Can you see the thicknesses there against the other size? It's a little bit fiddly to do, but they are different thicknesses. Right, now let's get round to putting this timing belt on, but before we do, we're going to get the little filter, that one there, which is located just by there in the block behind the 6mm Allen key. Pull it out and give it a good cleaner-oonie. Well, I've gone ahead now and I've put everything back together. We've cleaned the block down itself, the faces of it, and it is absolutely like brand new. Everything's got to be nice and clean. Now, when you're putting the belts on, make sure it's nice and taut between the two pulleys at the top, and this slack at the bottom will sort itself out because the crank pulley is free floating. If we get on the pin now, you should see it all moving. Like that. As simple as that. Got Ben doing the cleaning, ain't we? Now, after my lovely little apprentice has cleaned the timing cover, now he has done a good job, fair play to him. This little rubber O-ring goes on this water jacket here. What we're going to do, a little bit of red rubber grease, massage it into the rubber, like so. I'm going to get it, and get it put in there. Now let's move round to the sealant itself. Now we are using the genuine stuff for this one. Now if you have a look at the end of this spout when it focuses, I have put a little V in it, for the simple reason being when you're applying it, you get a nice beading of sealant all the way up. Just give that now, probably about 5 minutes or so, and then we can slide it back onto the engine. Right, now we've got the vehicle back up in the air, we've got the timing cover on and all torqued up to spec-a-rooney. Now, we do get in the timing kit is a brand new crankshaft oil seal, but in the timing toolkit, you also do get the insertion tool with it, and it is very, very simple to use. Let me just go and get my hammer, hang on. You don't need a big hammer, just a little one will do. And you can get it, when you're tapping it around, you should hear it. Okay. You should hear the tone actually changing as you're hitting it in, and that's when you know it's home. Right, let's get round now to putting the Sumperoony back on. Now make sure that everything is absolutely spotless, which it is. I even take this little baffle plate off and give that a bit of a clean. Now I do put a little bit of sealant there and there on the timing cover, and also at the back on the rear crankshaft seal, because we don't want anything leaking. And the same applies with the timing cover as to the sump. Put the sealants on, leave it about 5 minutes, and then we can put it on. Now I've been asked lots and lots and lots of times about what lights I do use, which are the boxer tools. Now this one is the LED 012, and they are absolutely insane lights. A couple of different brightnesses. They are insane. Best lights I've ever used. And there is a link in my link tree for them in my bio. Right, now with that Sumperoony back on, we can move around to the most critical part, which is the friction washer, which goes on the crank. Just slot it on and rub your finger around it and put it on, and make sure that everything is nice and clean. Then we get that crank pulley back on. Right, well now I've gone ahead and I've torqued the crank bolt up to manufacturer's spec. Now please follow your own instructions on how to do it with your multiplier. Now you must put that pin in the crank pulley and it lines up with the timing cover. Now as you can see, I do like to put my reference marks before I remove it, so you know that when it's all going back together, it's going to be somewhere near. Right, well we are now plodding on. We've got a lot of things built back up. I've put some fresh oil in it with a brand new original filter. I've got the air conditioning now, which is just refilling the system, vacuuming and refilling it, getting all that horrible moisture out. We're going to plod on now. I've got a brand new rocker cover to go on, rocker cover gasket. Now I do like to put a little blob of sealant just in the corners of the caps here, and the timing covers by there. Right, I'm going to plod on because I need to get this car finished. Right, well there we go, that vehicle now is all back together. Before we get on the key and give it a big start, Rooney, we're just going to disconnect the coil packs, just let the oil pressure build up and make sure that everything is spinning over perfectly. Right, now everything is plugged back in. The coil packs, what we're going to do is get on the key, but I need my bar to go through the window, put on the clutch pedal so we can give it a big start to Rooney. There we go, that car is now running. Right, well there we go, that car now is ticking over like a little Singer sewing machine. And while we're waiting for it to get up to temperature, we're going to be checking that everything is circulating and everything's getting up to temperature as it should down the back there. And also, while I take it up in the air and check for leaks and stuff, I'm going to be monitoring the engine temperature, the engine speed, and the short-term and long-term fuel trim, and making sure that this car is running nice and healthily. Right, well I've got the vehicle up in the air and I'm just going to be checking for leaks to see if we've got anything anywhere. As you can see, it is all nice and dry everywhere. I'm not going to keep you any longer because I've probably bored you long enough. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Well, let's get it sent.